Welcome to this first video on the MIT App Inventor. Now the MIT App Inventor was designed to make the creation of apps for Android devices much easier than it would be otherwise. Android, generally if you're going to program something for Android, you need to use Java. In terms of the complexity, when you compare, say, Python and Java, Java is probably, well, at least at the start, it's like twice as difficult sort of to understand exactly what's going on. If you want to just print something to the screen, let alone onto an app, just sort of using Java regularly, it probably takes about 10 lines of code. And if you recall from using Python, it would take you about, well, one line, print, and then whatever. So there's a certain barrier for people to create apps for Android and for any device really. And so there are tools that have been developed to make things a bit easier. Now, we're going to look at this MIT App Inventor. And if you've ever used Scratch before or any drag and drop programming interface, you'll realize that it's easier than programming just sort of with your regular keyboard and typing in all the commands. Of course, you know, with making it easier, some of the power, some of the flexibility, some of the sort of the strength and efficiency that you might get from programming yourself can be lost. But for a beginner, you know, at this point, it doesn't really matter. It gives you a foot in the door. So what we're going to do is create our apps here, and so basically, you need to go to the App Inventor website, and you can sort of look around here, and they've got some tutorials, and they've got lots of things that you can look at. But obviously, we're going to sort of follow what I want to do with you. All right. So what I'm going to do is hit the Create Apps. Okay, and that sends us to another site, and it brings up a little bit here. You could set it up on your Android device. And I won't go through that with you right now. We can probably just do it in class. I believe, if it's still as it was, we just need to bring up the, download the app from the Google Play Store. And then what happens is it basically just, there's a code you put in, and it will upload automatically to your phone. If you don't have an Android device, so if you are an iOS user, I think actually BlackBerry now allows you to do Android stuff, but an old BlackBerry user, a Nokia phone user, a Microsoft Windows phone user, you're not completely out of luck. There is a emulator that will run on these computers as well. So we can check that out after when we want to actually test out our apps. Okay. So what we're going to do first is just continue there. I'm going to create one. Now this is one from before that I created, so just sort of ignore this at the moment. And I'm going to create a new project. Okay, and so this one's going to be, well, I'll just call it speeches, because we're going to make an app that plays sort of famous speeches. Right, now what we've got here is basically there's two areas, and this is sort of your display, what it looks like. Okay, this is where you can sort of create the artwork, bring in the images, and so on. And then there's going to be the actual coding part, and that's called the blocks area. Okay, and this is where you're actually going to do the coding. And like I said, there's basically these blocks here that you can just drag back and forth. So it's sort of a movement between these two. Unfortunately, you can't have them both up on the screen at the same time, but you just have to deal with it. Now, here you can see all the interface icons and things that we have. There's things to do with layout, so how you can put things on the screen, bring in different media, and so on. So you can actually access the camera, the sound recorder, and a variety of other things. There's the sensor, so you probably have your accelerometer and something like that. So these things, you can basically access anything in your phone. And that gives you a lot of options as to what you'd want to do to create an app. So you could create some sort of, exercise thing with just a speedometer. So maybe it runs the app, and then once you hit 1,000 steps, it gives you a reward, or whatever it's going to do here. There's tons of options here, things to do with emails, texting, connecting to Twitter, and these are much like modules that you would find in Python. They've even got Lego Mindstorms here as well. So some of you that might have heard that before, those are basically Lego's robotics thing. Okay, and then there's even experimental ones. I'm not sure what a Firebase database is, but there is there, and maybe some other things that you can bring in. But regardless, there's lots and lots of things that you can do. You can have multiple screens as well. Okay, we're going to keep this first one pretty simple though. Now, one big difference between what we're doing here and what we did before with Python is the idea of procedurally driven programming versus event-driven programming. What we did in Python was basically procedural driven programming. It went from, line 1 of the code and went down to line 100 or whatever it was. And it ran relatively linear. It didn't really depend on the user. I mean, it did to the extent when we did the quiz one, you had to, press enter or whatever. But it was pretty linear in the way it ran. In a event-driven program, rather than sort of the person pressing start and it just sort of running through, the event-driven program relies on the user to interact with it, and depending on what the user does, then we will get some response. Okay, so it's sort of dependent on what the program is dependent upon the user's clicking, okay, or swiping or whatever, however they're interacting with the program. So what we're going to do first is basically upload some of the assets that we're going to be using. And so I tried to make it kind of Canadian here, and I've put in two relatively famous people, Terry Fox and Pierre Trudeau, and along with two of their speeches. And so the idea here is that we're going to get, with a click, the image will be on the screen, and then we'll be able to listen to their speech, okay? And, after you'll be able to change it up. So what I have to do here is choose the files, okay? And I don't want pictures of my kids. Okay, on my desktop. Alrighty, and I put them in a thing. I think I did. App Inventor, there it is. Okay, and so I should be able to just upload these. Hopefully they're not too big. And so it might take a minute here. I'm just going to pause it and just show you what I've done. Oh, well, actually it's gone already. So let's just see. Okay, that's just an image. And you can see that they are creating them here. Okay. So I'm just going to pause it and then upload the other two files. So now you should have the 4 files uploaded. So there's 2 MP3 files and 2 JPEG files. All right. So what we're going to do is now start creating our app here. And so what I'm going to do is just set so that horizontally everything is centered here. And we'll throw on a button. So I believe under user interface, there's a button here. And so you'll notice that it just automatically defaults to the center there. Just makes things a little bit easier for now. Obviously, if you want to start organizing things differently later on, that's fine. So we're going to add an image to this button here. And so if we can simply come down and you can see all the different things that we can do here. So we've got the height and so on. You can actually make the button an image. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to set it up for Terry Fox here first. So just go OK. And it should, oh, there we go. Okay. So that's putting the picture in there. Now we had the height and the width set to automatic. So it just went to its full size there. We don't really want its full size. So let's take a %. See what we can do here. Let's go 50. And the width as well. See how that looks. We don't want to take up the whole screen, but a portion of it. So maybe we could go a little bit bigger. I'm going to go for 75. There. Okay, so that's probably pretty good. Just try that with 75. Keep it. the same. There we go. Okay, so we've got the button there. Now there is text for button 1. You can see that still there. So that's simply this one. So we can just go over there and delete it, and then that will remove that sort of placeholder text there. The next thing we'll do is just add 2 labels here. So I'm going to take this one label and put it at the top. And notice when you do that, it kind of brings it down. And I'm going to bring another one down here, so label 2. And you can see how all of these are being put as components of your screen 1. And so we can change the text here. So on label 1, let's just say who it is. So this is, I don't know if we have to really say image of, but let's just put Terry Fox. And then on label 2, we'll tell the user what to do. So we're going to ask them to tap, I guess, picture to hear speech. All right. So just a simple little thing like that. The last thing that we have to do in our designer interface here is add the audio player. So under media, we should be able to find a player, and you should just be able to drag it on. Now, the player, you know, so it doesn't, I had it here, but it ends up putting it down here. And as you can see, it says a non-visible component. So we're actually going to have it so that, you know, it's on the screen, but it's not visible. There's no player to press. In this case, we're going to code the button to actually play the image. So what we're going to do actually is go to the block screen next. Actually, before I do that, I forgot. Let's actually set this player here. So the player, the source, we need to go on there. So this is the Terry MP3. So go OK. And we've got a volume there. We'll just, there's a loop. We might want to put that on, but you know, whatever you'd like at the moment. Okay, sorry, into the programming part. What we want to do is, like I said, sort of do an event handler here. We want to have it so that the when clicked, the audio will play, and so that would be under our control. And so if we just need to look down and find the one here. The key thing to do is to click button first, and then you've got all the options for there. So what we've got is here, when, and I can just click on it and bring it in. You can place it anywhere you want. So when we click button 1, then we have to get it to do something. This is called an event handler. Okay, so when button 1 is clicked, do something. Well, what we wanted to do is to basically to start, right? To play start. So we should be able to find that with the player. So we've got all these other ones here. So we'll get it to play start. And you probably will hear a little click as it puts in there. So I'm going to put that in so that it plays it. Okay. And basically that's it. So we're going to end the video here. I'll do a little bit more after. But what I'd like you to try to do is get it working on your phone, or if you don't have it on your phone, try it on the emulator and see if you can get this to work here. All right. So I'm just going to make sure I save it. I think projects. Yeah, save project there. Just make sure it's saved, and we'll see how it works.